You're listening to the AV-IT Amplifier. Each week, we'll feature voices and ideas that need to be amplified in the higher education and pro-AV IT communities. This show is brought to you by higheredav.com. And now here's your host, Ryan Gray.
Well, hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in again to the AV-IT Amplifier. If it is Wednesday, then you know we are here with content, and we have another person, another voice to bring to you today that I'm very excited about, and somebody that I've known for a little while. And if you're watching, aside from the fact that he's trying to compete with my serious beard game that I've got going on, I'm very excited to welcome him to the show. Chris, would you please introduce yourself and let everybody know who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. Ryan, I can't thank you enough. I've listened to this show for a while now, and I thought maybe one day I'll make the cut, and I finally did. So I'm pretty excited about that. Thank you again for having me. My name's Chris Dietrich. I manage the Learning Technologies team for the University of Arizona College of Medicine, Phoenix. I'm specifically at the downtown Phoenix Biomedical Core campus versus the main campus down in Tucson. So good group of people up here. We work in the medical field, and we get to see a lot of neat stuff. So thank you again for bringing me on.
Well, thank you for being on, and I appreciate it. So, and I like to do this, to spring this on people every once in a while. But Chris, how do we know each other?
How did I meet you then specifically?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why on earth do we even know each other?
Why do we know each other? So I want to say, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but it was about 6 years ago, I reached out to Tom Aldridge, who used to be kind of in your role at Yavapai Community College, and invited your team to come down. And for some reason, I can't remember how I got to that point. But you brought everyone down with you, and there must have been a good 5 or 6 people. We talked about technologies that we're using, challenges that we're seeing, introduced both of our groups, had lunch, toured the campus. It was just a great time, a lot of collaboration and networking. And I think ever since then, our two campuses have actually stayed in touch pretty well. And we make sure we see each other at conferences. We make sure we collaborate. I was at your community college conference, I think, a year or two ago. So just a lot of reciprocation, making sure that we're just available to help each other and kind of see the challenges in our own unique environments.
I love that. Yeah, that's awesome. And so I can answer how it started. It was because before that meetup, our mutual Crestron rep set up a Crestron day at your campus, which we came to. So we'll shout out Jordan Scales, and if he doesn't listen, shame on that guy. But it was what I love about that story, and that's awesome that you said that. What I love about it is it's kind of like a mini kind of HETMA mission writ large, which is, a manufacturer partner brought some people together and connections were made. And from that, like friendships, relationships, and other things were born out of it. That, what I'm saying, that and we'll talk a little bit about where all that's gone in the meantime, but absolutely it was, but you guys were literally said, bring your team down. We'll host you guys. We'll have lunch. Let's talk about what we're working on. What can you offer? What can we offer? And it didn't matter that it was, little Yavapai College and big University of Arizona. You were right there from the beginning. So that was awesome. That's awesome.
Yes, thank you for reminding me. That was a great time. That A+ rewards, it was the end of the year. You're right. We had a lot of schools out here. So yeah, look at what it turned into. Here we are 6 years later.
Dude, I know. And it's crazy how, we had a little thing going, and then that stupid COVID thing happened. You know what I'm saying? And that messed with all of that. But we've come back with gusto since then. You know what I'm saying? So absolutely. That's awesome. So I want to go down a couple of different paths with you, but let's start here just because that story led us there, which is we've collaborated on a couple of things, but recently this year we collaborated on something that I don't know if it nearly put both of us kind of into an early grave getting it done, but I know we both put a lot of time and effort and heart into it. So what was that event, and what, how would you talk about your experience putting together this year's Arizona HETMA Roadshow?
Yeah, so can you believe, I think it's been almost 90 days to the day since we had that roadshow. How time flies, It's crazy. But yeah, that might be part of the reason why I got half the gray hair that I have, right? Some of that was from before the roadshow, but you know
No
the drill.
doubt. No doubt.
That's too funny. But yeah, we had the roadshow toward the end of January here at our Phoenix campus, and I think we first brought this up in November when we were at a different conference down here. I
Hmm.
think it was Exertus, if I remember right.
Hmm.
And then it was you, Chuck Fortino from Phoenix College, Sean Schnitzer from ASU, and we just kind of got together and said we need to have something down here in Arizona. It'd be the first roadshow. Let's get something going. And I thought I told you that day, and I was a little ambitious, but I said, let's get to 100 higher ed attendees, right? And I was
Hmm.
like, maybe I shouldn't have said that. After the day after, I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to hit this goal or not, but I did my darndest to really make sure that happened. And, with the help of you three, some of our manufacturers and other companies that we work with out here, I think we had 175 or so in attendance. So
Hmm.
we like blew that out of the water. What was like a grassroots type of effort turned into this like snowball, effect that I don't even know if I could fit everybody in the room. We were almost
Hmm.
at capacity. So I think at the end of the day, 26 different booths, 175 plus people. We had a great discussion with some of those the contacts that you had over at ASU, and I thought it was one of the best shows that I've been to, especially for something that was only 6 hours long. I mean, we
Yeah.
packed that with just awesome information, and so I had a great time. I really
So
did.
I did too. So what do you think about how we went about it made it stand out? Why did it snowball the way it did, both with attendees, people from higher ed, vendors, and everybody else?
You know, I think part of it was just, for me specifically, I usually try not to roll over and give up on something. So I would follow up a lot. I
Hmm.
sent out a couple emails personally if I had not heard from certain individuals. Ones obviously I'm comfortable with. If I haven't met you, I wouldn't be so pushy, right? But in the best way possible, to kind of get people out of their comfort zone, I was following up with a few individuals and I asked those individuals to reach out to a few individuals, right? Because I can only do so much. And I know you were probably doing the same thing. And so I think that was a huge part of getting at least some of the contacts out here that were going to be involved in the conference. But then on the manufacturer side, I'm pretty sure it's a similar situation, right? We would get one or two, they'd hear from someone else, they were going to be at the conference, they needed a booth, and then they would hear about it from someone else, and all of a sudden we were out of room. So I
Hmm.
think I think it was just a lot of just networking and the fact that we were persistent and staying on top with communication. We were keeping it on social media. I know you were doing your best with the podcast and LinkedIn, and I think it just
Hmm.
exploded to where it was today.
When I think I couldn't agree more, and you described it at the beginning as kind of grassroots, right? Like it was, it, one of the HETMA taglines is "Buy us for us," though I think we have to say it the other way around so we don't run into trademark things with the clothing brand. So maybe buy us for us. I don't remember, but it was like we were just higher ed people trying to plan a conference slash trade show slash social event and
I
just doing the best we can at it. But because we were, like it, I don't know, my brain, like it came without pretension. Therefore, it was just us asking for it.
yeah,
And the other thing I really like, I thought is there were four schools involved in planning it, right? And and little Yavapai College gets to tag along, but it was a group. It was a group effort, a committee of people saying it wasn't, "Hey, come to my thing." It was, "Hey, come to our
I'm
thing."
down.
So I don't know, like it was. I would agree, like it was a lot of work, more than I thought going into it, and in the long run, like totally worth it.
Yeah, totally exceeded expectations, right? I remember the day before when we were going over the count and how many people were coming, I was sweating bullets. I'm like, man, I hope I'm making it worth their time. I think at the end of the day, it absolutely was. So it totally worth doing again somewhere in Arizona. Let's get a different institution to do a similar show, and I think it's going to be just as successful.
Are you dropping news right now? Is there
Oh
going to
no,
be
no,
an
not that I,
Arizona
we don't have the
Roadshow
dates.
2025?
Hey, I think it could be an annual thing, right? Why
It
not?
could be. I'll just say there's a casual agreement that sometime August, September, and now apropos of nothing. So one of the rules of podcasting is never refer to something that the people didn't hear. But we were on a different meeting earlier today where maybe we're going to be doing something in late August. That might be a good time to kick off the. Never mind. All right, we'll go back to that. And one of the last things that I'll say about the roadshow, and because it was good and it got acclaim, and I earlier in my life, I would have been sort of ashamed to brag about something like that, but I let it go. And people who listen to the show have heard Britt Yenser talk quite a bit. And one of the title of her episodes is "Closed Mouths Don't Get Fed." Like, you have to advocate for things. And so it really did go well. The things about it that didn't go well, we've looked at and addressed and done that sort of thing. But part of it is, I think the real reason is, I think the why was right. That is, we did it for the right reason. We didn't do it just to do it. We did it because we actually cared to get people together. And that made the difference of, so that way, decision by decision or action by action, why were we persistent in it? Why were we that? Because we cared about the end result. And so when we've talked about, and this is, I won't go into it, but like, in trying to talk about future HETMA road shows, and they're like, what did you do to make that happen? And my answer is always not about what we did. It's about the why. Get the why right, and then the hows and the what's. Okay, I'll get off my soapbox. But just from me to you, Chris, thank you so much for everything you did on that event. I'll ride that high for a long time, and it's a crown jewel. And it was so much fun as a way to kind of reconnect and rekindle sort of a friendship that we've had, and take it to another level of, like, when you've worked on something hard together, you know what I'm saying? It turns into a little bit different thing.
I know. It was so fulfilling to have. I'm glad we had the opportunity, and I can't thank you enough, because you were a huge part of that. And, and so are Chuck and Sean. They are all integral pieces of making sure that show is a success. So we got to do something again next year. I'm challenging someone in Arizona to step up.
That's right. Let's do it. And a post survey, one of the things you could say was, I'm interested in helping next year. And there were some people who put their names down. So trust me, we will be calling you. You know what I'm saying? All right, dude, thank you for that. That's awesome. So, okay. Let's go another direction on that, which is, so you're at the University of Arizona, but like you said, in downtown Phoenix, where the main campus is in Tucson. And particularly a medical school, and it's still, the University of Arizona is the only medical school in Arizona. That may change in the future, but ASU is still trying to get their act together. I won't bash the Sun Devils, I'm saying, too badly here. What is your experience like, or how do you see the role of doing technology in a medical field versus a full, general liberal arts kind of campus?
I would say that the funny line is, we're the same but different, right? Of course, if you come to this campus, you're going to see your typical conference, classroom type meeting spaces. I don't think you're going to see anything different here than you would anywhere else, right? The collaborative rooms, that's probably a major shift compared to most spaces. And I'm sure there's other institutions out there that'll say, no, we have that too. And they're likely right. But we're a fairly new campus. The building that I'm in was built in 2012, right? So our oldest education building is 12 years old. So when you put that into perspective, at the time, we were building the best possible layout with the best possible technology. And I think we're very fortunate in that regard, because I'm sure with many people that you talk to, they could be in buildings that are over a century old, right? And so we've had kind of that benefit that's helped us. When you walk on this campus, you would not imagine the building's 12 years old. You would think it was maybe 2. So I would say, getting back to your question, the collaborative spaces are what are fairly neat. I know you've had the chance to see it. Anyone that was at the roadshow when they toured the campus, they would have saw this massive 120 seat collaborative learning room where there's a pod of 6 sitting in front of a display, where we're trying to encourage face-to-face interaction, but then breaking back, having the instructor kind of talk about a certain topic, and then going back to the small group learning. And then we can say, oh, hey, group 6, they're really onto something. let's share their content across the entire room so all of your groups can kind of see where they're going with this. And I think that's kind of a neat space that you might not see in a standard layout
Yeah.
or standard campus. But then additionally, because we're a medical school, a lot of standard institutions might not have a simulation center or a doctoring clinical skills environment where you're actually training the student how to interact with a standardized patient, and we're grading those interactions so they can improve on how they're delivering feedback, make sure that they're ready when they hit the clinical environment. So it's almost like a mini hospital per se
Hmm.
in those two areas. And I think those are also something that you likely wouldn't see unless you're in a medical environment.
Yeah, I agree. Your campus is such a unique thing because it sort of blends the feel of a college campus with a really urban downtown feel in Phoenix that's really come a long way from in the last 15 years really to kind of be a vibrant thing. But also, yeah, it's that focus of mission is kind of really cool. And again, when we've seen it, we borrowed heavily from you in our world of setting up nursing, and when we did a nursing building, you know what I'm saying, we had examples to follow. So I really love, you're right about the feel of that campus and the specialization, but you never feel like you're like, if you're in the building, you still feel like you're in a college environment, right? You're still in an institution of higher education.
Yep. Yeah, they did a fantastic job. The fact that, again, I'm still running on spaces that haven't changed one bit from 2012, and knock on wood, I hope I didn't just jinx myself here, but,
Yeah.
we do need to start looking at, because, 12 years in AV, whoo, that's getting up there.
Mm-hmm.
But it's held up pretty good. So, yeah, and then another tidbit that I would add that I think really what makes our campus different is obviously I'm representing the University of Arizona. We're not the only university on this campus. We also have
True.
Northern Arizona University. So I'm not sure of anyone listening to the podcast, and I'd love to get some feedback on this if they do. I have yet to meet anyone that's managing shared space for multiple universities, and I think we have about 8 different colleges here, all under some type of health sciences umbrella. If you
Yeah.
come to Phoenix, you're only going to be working with master's or doctoral level students. They are career students. We have no undergrad. So it's kind of just it's a different environment from that field too, that you would maybe see on a traditional campus.
I love that. You're totally right. Because, yeah, not only is NAU literally there, like you see the Wi-Fi networks for both University of
Yes.
Arizona and NAU in the same
Yes.
place. And then
Yep.
ASU ain't far away. They have
Nah.
buildings that are right there. There's a lot going on. And
Yep.
it's another cool thing when you mention, like, look, you're working grad only, right? I'm working literally all undergrad, and we still get to have the same conversations. It's like
Absolutely.
we now offer up 2 bachelor's degrees, and you're like, oh, that's cute. Bachelor's degrees. Wow. Wow. So much learning going on down there.
You're growing up, Ryan. No, not at
Yeah,
all.
exactly. And then,
No, no.
and you guys actually, so speaking of the buildings and things going on there, because it's a tight knit community in Phoenix, and we get to hear about it. I know you guys have like a new building going up, and it sounds like, one, it's going to be cool. Two, there's some unique challenges with it. Anything you'd like to share about that?
Yeah, so the new building, and I had to make sure I get this name right because it's a mouthful.
Ah.
It's called CAMI, right? CAMI. But CAMI stands for the Center for Advanced Molecular and Immunological Therapies. I think I got it right in the first
Yes.
try. I know. I had to make sure I get that right. We're actually going to be breaking ground toward the end of this year, and it's going to be roughly 7 stories, typical 250,000 square foot building. And we're going to have many labs in that building because research is obviously huge if you're in a medical school. We already have one building here; it's almost dedicated entirely to research. So this is going to kind of complement that. But I think one of the biggest challenges we're going to see is on the first floor. Like I mentioned earlier, we're going to have another collaborative room, but
Mm-hmm.
instead, this one's going to house double what we have currently. So I believe it's going to be at least 240. And then the challenge is that the ceiling is 2 levels high. So now we got this great, vast, tall ceiling. How am I going to get audience interaction? How are they
Mm-hmm.
going to see content? The furniture might be flexible. There's just all these challenges you have to figure out in such a large space, and it all has to be captured on Zoom. So these are some challenges that, I don't think we have all the answers just yet. I've seen some pretty neat stuff from other schools.
Hmm.
I'll definitely be leaning on them for some input. But I'll make sure that I update you on that space. It's kind of like the flagship room. Like, how am I going to
Yeah.
figure this out?
Dude, a 240 seat active learning classroom.
Yes, sir. Yes. Yeah.
Wow. All
It's going
right.
to be,
I'm following along with that saga right there, I promise.
yeah, yeah. I'll make sure I keep you up to date. But yeah, so we break ground into year, long as the construction timeline sticks to what we're expecting, I believe 2026 building will be completed. Definitely invite some people out to take a look at the finished product.
That'd be awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
you could probably host a whole road show in that room if
We
you
might
wanted
fit
to.
a road show.
Like, dude.
I like it. I like it.
Okay, so and just real quickly, not to go, but University of Arizona, you're doing a lot of this work against the backdrop of a pretty serious financial challenge, and it sort of stinks. So I will say, I grew up in Tucson, where the University of Arizona is based. I'm a diehard Wildcat fan and
Love it.
always will be. Right, bear down and all this, and like 100%. So I get excited whenever Chris is on a Zoom call because he's got an awesome background of an LED tile, a thing that it's fantastic. So bear down. No. Real quickly, how has it been working? What's it been like at an institution that's faced a little bit of a financial thing? You've got a president, some things that have turned over and all that. Is it the sort of thing where you're able to sort of stay on mission and do that, or have things been more distracted than you would expect them to be?
I mean, there's definitely been some challenges, right? And changes are coming. We still haven't really finalized a little of the centralization that we're kind of going through at this point. So I'm sure there's going to be more coming down the pipe that will likely impact our campus specifically. The issue started with the fact that the cash on hand wasn't meeting the Arizona border region requirements, and so we
Yeah.
had to make some changes to try to get that issue corrected. And last I heard, we're doing very well and we're getting close to getting to where we need to be. So the good news is, of all the types of reporting units within the university, usually the medical side seems to do pretty well.
Hmm.
And that is certainly the case for Phoenix. So the College of Medicine Phoenix is definitely in a very good position. As you can understand, we only have 120 seats to fill per class year. And you
Hmm.
can only imagine the amount of applicants we get to fill those seats. It's well over what we can actually fulfill here. So we're going to see probably some cuts with what I'm going to be able to do, but I think that should be short term. And the goal is Phoenix should kind of get back on track and be able to do what it needs to do to fulfill its mission. And the good news is we're still growing up here.
Yeah.
We're going to be at 130 this coming year, which is pretty good size medical school. And
Hmm.
hopefully we'll be at 160 not too far down the road.
Nice. Well, I'm only getting older and my ailments are only getting worse. So I'm really excited for y'all to continue to pump quality doctors into the Arizona community.
Absolutely.
And the other thing I'd say is, there's a lot going on there, but you're such an even keel person, such a person with such broad perspective that every time I've asked you about that, you're like, well, man, this is happening and that is happening, but here's what I'm going to do and it's going to be okay. Like, I feel like if I had a crisis of any type, I would just call you and you'd be like, okay, well, listen, this is happening and that is happening, but here's what we're going to do and it's going to be okay. That, like, as a technology, it's such like one of the reasons you make such a great technology manager, I think, is that whatever that is about you that can see the short term and the long term at the same time.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. I do the best I can to, just look at the bright side of things, right? I know that this campus is incredible. It really is. I think it speaks for itself. And so we know what value we bring, and we're going to end up being one of the brightest spots within the university. Not to shine down anyone else down south, but Phoenix is an incredible site, and we
Yeah.
are growing.
Closed mouths don't get fed. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah.
Preach it.
And I think the other thing is, Ryan, I know what I don't know. And I always tell you
Mhm.
this, I'm technical enough to be dangerous. So maybe that's it. I just keep it inside. I'm like, hey, team, can you answer this for me? Because I have no idea what they're talking about. I do that all the time.
Well, but that's, yeah, dude, no, That's a quality, right? Don't pretend to know. We can go down that whole rabbit hole. Don't pretend to know something you don't know. It does not pay off. It does not help anybody. It doesn't make you look good. Okay, 100%. Okay, all right. So the time is going so fast. So going back to where we started talking about the HETMA Roadshow, and you've spent some time. You've got blood, sweat, and tears now into the building of HETMA in a really active way. And I know that you were nominated for a couple of HETMA positions for the coming year. So what positions were you nominated for, and what are your sort of thoughts about what you might bring to those roles?
Sure. Yeah, so the funny thing is, I got to give you your kudos, sir. I didn't even know what HETMA was until Infocom 22. And when I said, "What is HETMA? What is Ryan saying? HETMA?" And then Ryan's like, "Look, let me give you this card.
What is that
You should,
word?
yeah. Well, what are you calling me, Ryan?" No, but yes, you showed me the way. You told me all about it. I scanned this QR code. I'm like, wow, this is really neat. I need to be a part of this network. So it hasn't even been 2 years, right, since I found out what HETMA even was. And I admit, on me, the first 12 months, yeah, I joined immediately, but I didn't really do much. And I felt like I could be doing more and doing more for the organization. And so the roadshow was a big part of that, obviously. But, I had so much fun working on that show and meeting all these new schools that I would have otherwise never even have known, right?
Yeah.
And so when I saw the positions come out, I just kind of threw my name out there. So, I just love to help HETMA. I'm not really sure how I can help HETMA, but a few of the positions stood out to me, and I got some feedback on maybe where I would be a good fit. And so two of the roles that really stood out to me were the regional chair and the sponsorship chair. And so I don't know where I'm going to land with which role, but and if it's not even one of those two, great. I'm just happy to be more involved and to kind of give back. And then that's just going to help me develop into a better tech manager. So it comes full circle, and I can't wait to see the results of the election here in the next month or so.
So going down that road, have you ever stood for election before?
No.
No?
No.
Is that student council? You didn't run for student council or anything like that?
Okay, if we're going back that far, I'm sorry. Yeah. Maybe back in high school. A millennial ago, yes, I was that.
There
Yeah.
you go.
But here within the university in my current role, no, I haven't had that.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah.
Yet.
No, it's really an interesting thing for people to raise your hand and say, "I want you to select me for me to serve." Is kind of it's an interesting thing that people go through. So real quick, so let's talk about regional groups chair, sponsorship chair. You mentioned those things. Sort of, you looked at it and sort of gravitated. What was it about those two roles that sort of piqued your interest?
And going back to the roadshow again, I hate to keep using that as an example, but I feel like that was just kind of the best way for me to see how we could be, more productive and efficient as an organization. And so I already, before coming into the roadshow, had a pretty good network established out here, at least in Arizona and some of the Southwest in general. So I just felt regional chair. Okay, so if I'm going to be working with other universities across the campus on trying to have maybe a similar successful type of event, I figured I would slot into that fairly well, and trying to coordinate with schools, identifying who can be a key contact within their specific area, and try to work on having maybe more of a consistent type of event, making sure that we're hitting the goals that we want to obtain within that area. And I just felt like if I was able to do that here, maybe I could do something similar on a broader scale. And the same thing with the sponsorship side. I mean, oddly enough, I think I know more people on the manufacturer end than I do on the higher end. So between integration, manufacturer, I know a fair amount of people. So I thought, okay, great. If I can just walk into that and I already know a good chunk, maybe that'll be easy for me to actually step in and hit the ground running. So between those two, I just felt that really was it. I could kind of hit the ground running. I don't have to bug the heck out of Ryan Gray every other hour. What do I do? Who's this? Tell me how to handle it. So that was kind of my goal there.
Well, you can bug me anytime. And also, like, I'm so excited about your enthusiasm for the organization because, like I said, bro, I think you have so much to offer and so much leadership qualities that, like, don't, like, all right, just between you and me, no one else is listening. Like, I really look up to a lot of the things that you do and a lot of the ways you carry yourself. I have that feeling every once in a while of like, man, maybe I should be Chris when I grow up. You know what I'm saying? Like, that would really, I could probably get my act together eventually and do that. So I'm really excited about this opportunity for you to be able to bring that skill set of who you are, what you do, and just that genuine enthusiasm you have into the organization. It's what drives HETMA. It's why it's attractive to me. And so I was just like, oh man, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, that means a lot. Yeah, and and the hardest thing is, and I'm sure a lot of people can agree with this, it's just getting out of your comfort zone. You know, and for me, I just said I need to step up in this area, and so I think it's going to blossom into other opportunities and just, again, help me grow as a person because I'm going to learn so much from everyone else that's already involved. So I can't wait to see what ends up happening.
See, that's a HETMA commercial right there that you just said. All right. Well, Chris, a half an hour goes so fast. I'm so surprised. If people wanted to reach out to you about, your school, what you're working on, any of that stuff, get connected. If they don't know you, how would they be able to connect with you and find you?
Well, I'm always on LinkedIn, Chris Dietrich. I know my last name's not the easiest to spell, but LinkedIn is great, and of course, email cdietrich@arizona.edu. I'll definitely type that up because there's no way someone's going to spell that right. But those are the two best ways to get a hold of me. And of course, through HETMA, right? I am a part of the organization, so you can always reach out to me there.
Yeah, find them on the back end, and I will link both of those on the show. Chris, thank you so much for talking with us about so many different topics today. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Ryan.
Thank you for listening to the AV-IT Amplifier. Tune in next week for more with today's guest. It'll be great or your money back. Your host has been Ryan Gray. He's on the tweeters at Ryan_A_Gray or find him on LinkedIn to connect. Please subscribe and give the show a rating and review wherever you get your podcasts. This show is brought to you by HigherEdAV.com. The views expressed here are not necessarily those of our respective institutions, employers, or sponsors. Everyone hang in there, go easy, and we'll be back next week.